Good morning, all of you. First of all, I will discuss the class 10th chemistry chapter 1 chemical reactions and equations. First of all, how will you define the chemical reaction? A chemical reaction is a process where the reactant get converted into a product by the help of a catalyst. A catalyst is a substance which increases the rate of a reaction, and the reactant who take part in a chemical reaction is called reactant. Product, the substance which are formed in a chemical reaction, is called product. Suppose this is a reaction 2Mg plus O2 arrow sign 2MgO. So magnesium burn in presence of oxygen, it will form magnesium oxide. These two are the reactant and these are the product. Means reactant are those substances which take part in a chemical reaction, and product are the substances which are formed in a chemical reaction. The reactant are written on the left hand side with a plus sign between them. Similarly, products are written on the right side with the plus sign between them. And an arrow sign is pointed towards the product and shows the direction of a reaction. Now, we will discuss how do we identify a chemical reaction. A chemical reaction is identified by any of factor. Factors are these like: first, change in state. It means physical state like solid, liquid and gas. Second, change in color. Third, change in temperature. And fourth is evolution of gas. According to the law of conservation of mass, matter can neither be created nor be destroyed in a chemical reaction. This law was given by Lavoisier. According to this law, the total mass of the reactant is equal to the total mass of the product. It means the sum of mass of reactant and product will be same. That reaction follow the law of conservation of mass. It means the reaction is balanced. How to write a chemical reaction? A chemical reaction is represented in terms of chemical equation. A chemical reaction can be represented by a chemical equation. It involves the use of symbols of substance of reactant and product with mention of physical state like solid, liquid, gas or aqueous form. AQ means aqueous form. Or you can see that it is the symbolic representation of a chemical reaction with the help of symbols of elements and formula of compounds. Suppose magnesium symbol is Mg, oxygen O2, arrow sign. That formula is MgO, ठीक है, plus heat plus light. After that you can balance the following equation. Then one more question is that why do we need to balance a chemical equation? Here two reasons are there. First, law of conservation of mass. Matter can neither be created nor be destroyed in a chemical reaction. So number of elements involved in a chemical reaction should remain same at the reactant side and product side. Now next topic is that types of chemical reactions. There are 5 types of chemical reactions. First, combination reaction. Second, decomposition reaction. Third, displacement reaction. Fourth, double displacement reaction. Fifth, redox reaction. Now we will discuss first of all combination reaction. Now combine, it means it will add, means the reaction in which two or more reactant combine to form a single product. For example, burning of coal. Coal means carbon. It burns in presence of oxygen and it will form CO2, carbon dioxide. Second example, formation of water. H2 plus O2, it will form H2O. Means two reactants are combined and a single product is formed. In this reaction also two reactants are combined and a single product formed. Now you can take another example. For example, now another example is calcium oxide react with water to produce a slacked lime, that is calcium hydroxide, releasing a large amount of heat. CaO plus H2O, arrow sign, CaOH twice. Calcium hydroxide reacts slowly with carbon dioxide in air to form a thin layer of calcium carbonate on the wall. This calcium carbonate is formed after 2 to 3 days of the whitewashing and gives a shiny finish to the wall. It is interesting to note that the chemical formula for a marble is CaCO3, calcium carbonate. All these reaction involves heat with the formation of product. This reaction is also called as exothermic reaction. Now another example is burning of natural gas and decomposition of vegetable matter into composite is also the example of exothermic. Endothermic means heat is absorbed. Exothermic means, exo means release. Thermic means heat. The reaction in which heat is evolved or released, this reaction is called exothermic. Now the question arises कि digestion of food is an exothermic reaction or endothermic reaction. Reason is that during digestion, food is broken down into simpler substance like rice, potatoes, and bread that contain carbohydrate. These carbohydrates are broken down to form glucose, and this glucose combined with oxygen in the cells of our body and provide energy. So energy is supply in this reaction. So this reaction is called as endothermic reaction. This reaction is called as endothermic reaction, in which heat is absorbed. Then reaction takes place. Now you can take another example of respiration. Respiration is an exothermic reaction. Now the second type of decomposition reaction is now the next example of combination reaction is the calcium hydroxide to react slowly with the carbon dioxide in air to form a thin layer of calcium carbonate on the wall. Calcium carbonate is formed after 2 to 3 days of whitewashing and gives a shiny finish to the walls. The chemical formula for marble is CaCO3. This reaction is also called as exothermic reaction because when calcium oxide react with water to produce calcium hydroxide, which is slacked lime, and produce a large amount of heat. When a large amount of heat is released during the formation of a product, this reaction is called as exothermic reaction. Burning of natural gas, decomposition of vegetable matter. These are the example of exothermic reaction. Now, what is the difference between exothermic and endothermic reaction? Exothermic means the heat is released. Exo means release. Thermic means heat. The reaction in which heat is released is called as exothermic. And the reaction in which heat is absorbed is called as endothermic reaction. You can take the example of endothermic reaction is during the digestion of food. Food is break down into simpler substance. For example, rice, potato, and bread contain carbohydrates. These carbohydrates are broken down to form a glucose. This glucose combines with oxygen in the cells of our body and provide energy. This reaction is called as endothermic reaction. Now, the next type of reaction is decomposition reaction. Decompose means break down or split up. It means a compound splits into two or more substances. Or you can say that when a product breaks up into its constituent reactant, This is also called as decomposition reaction. You can take the example of ferrous sulfate, FeSO4 into 7H2O. This loses water when heated and the color of the crystal changes. It decomposes to ferric oxide, Fe2O3, sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide. The ferric oxide is a solid, whereas SO2 and SO3 are the gases. Now you can take the another example of decomposition reaction like electrolysis of H2O and photolysis of AgCl. Now the types of decomposition reaction. Decomposition reaction is of three types. First, thermal decomposition. When the decomposition is carried out by heating, it means this is thermal decomposition. Thermal means heat. You can take the example of calcium carbonate heated in presence of oxygen. It will form calcium oxide and CO2. This calcium carbonate decomposes to calcium oxide and carbon dioxide on heating is an important decomposition reaction used in various industries. Calcium oxide is also called as quicklime or lime. It has many uses. One is in the manufacture of cement. And this reaction. Now the next type of reaction is electrolytic decomposition reaction. When decomposition is carried out by passing the electricity. For example, H2O. By the help of electric current, it will be dissociated into H2 and O2. Now you can take the another example of electrolysis like NaCl, Na plus Cl. Then first of all we will discuss the electrolysis of water. Suppose you take the activity. Take a plastic mug, drill 2 holes at its base and fit rubber stoppers in these holes. Insert the carbon rod in these rubber stoppers and connect these electrodes to a 6-volt battery. Fill the mug with water so the electrodes are immersed and add a few drops of dilute sulfuric acid to water. Take 2 test tubes filled with water and invert them over the 2 carbon electrodes. Switch on the current and leave the apparatus undisturbed for some time. Then we will observe the formation of bubbles at both the electrodes. These bubbles displace water in the test tubes. Then we see that hydrogen at the cathode and oxygen at the anode. And oxygen is the double of hydrogen in the terms of volume. So these are the process of electrolysis of water in detail. Now the next type of decomposition reaction is photolysis. Photolysis decomposition reaction. When the decomposition is carried out in presence of sunlight, like 2AgCl in presence of sunlight, 2Az plus Cl2. Halogens compounds decompose on exposure to sunlight. Photo means sunlight, in presence of sunlight. Photolytic reactions are used in black and white photography. This AgCl in presence of sunlight, it will break Ag plus Cl2. It is used in black and white photography. The decomposition reactions require energy either in the form of heat, light or electricity for breaking down the reactants. When the reaction in which energy is absorbed, this reaction is called as endothermic reaction. Now, the next type of chemical reaction is, that is third type, displacement reaction. Means one atom is replaced by another atom. It means you can say that the reaction in which more reactive element displaces less reactive elements from its solution. Like iron react with copper sulfate, it will form ferrous sulfate plus copper. It means iron is replaced, copper is replaced by iron. So this displacement reactions